Yeah.
I go, oh, it's just that Gus guy again.
Yeah, there he is. He's doing it again. Then you can put your cap on like that, and away you go.
Just a plain-spoken farmer from Saskatchewan, from over Tompkins way. Gus Wickstrom's got something that you'll wanna know about, folks say. When Gus says there's gonna be snow, I'll be damned if it doesn't do it. How is it that Gus knows, and what is the trick to it? Well, you might think that Gus is just fooling us, but he's more accurate than any meteorologist. He's almost never been wrong about the weather, and he does it just by reading Pig's Guts. Well, old Gus is quite a clever man. Just by looking at a pig's spleen, he becomes the finest weatherman that you have ever seen.
All right, Gus Wickstrom is in Tompkins. He doesn't use fancy equipment or Doppler radar. He makes weather forecasts from pig spleens, and Gus joins us on the line now. Hi, Gus.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Now, for people who don't know, and I know many people have heard you on the Morning Edition in the past, refresh our memories on how your weather forecasting method works.
Well, in the fall, in November and December, I go to where they butcher lots of hogs, and I get the spleen from older hogs, and I hold the spleen up, and I take a look at it, and I predict the weather from January until June of the following year.
Oh, finally!
It's about time.
See the distance.
Okay, I just want.
Oh, shut up.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Don't be scared.
Vote yes. Vote yes. Oh, there we go.
Everybody likes it.
Good man, Bob. There we are. Oh, Janet's got the biggest mug so far.
Oh, that'll be good for me, thank you.
Okay, I will have such a draw.
Just a wee dram. A wee dram.
A wee dram for Norma. That's fine.
That's it, okay.
Don't be scared now.
You with peanuts.
And there's more too in the jar for the second round.
I'm going to just do this. Can I give you that back? Perfect.
They were more British than Britain, actually. Oh, when I was there. I'm not sure.
Welcome everybody to the Pig Spleen Party 2014. Now we're going to have our aquavit, followed by our shooter of pickled herring with the rye bread. Beer is for sissies, so we don't follow with beer anymore.
Anybody that would like a sip of my beer after you're done? $2 a sip. For all you sissies.
And then we've got our evening entertainment will follow that. So let's skål.
Skål. Skål.
Eye contact. Eye contact.
Drink up 75.
Okay.
I think it's followed mostly because it's a bit odd. There's it's sort of on the edge of being it's sort of a pagan kind of ritual. There's no obvious link between the science and the weather. And I think the science itself doesn't do a very good job of doing predictions, and because the pig spleen predictions are really quite accurate, there's no real good explanation why people really enjoy that. Able to say that this sort of odd mechanism of predicting the weather is much better than the scientific way of doing it.
A few weeks ago, I was looking at the Old Farmer's Almanac website, and I came across the story of a man named Gus Wickstrom from Tompkins, Saskatchewan, who does pig spleen weather forecasting. Gus predicts the weather using a pig spleen. Now, admittedly, I'm not 100% sure how Environment Canada arrives at their weather predictions and forecasts, but I'd be willing to bet that they don't use pig spleens. So, here I am, out and about, on my way to Tompkins, Saskatchewan, to meet Gus and find out more about pig spleen weather forecasting. in front of us on a towel, there are 6 pig spleens laid out. They're approximately between 16 and 18 inches, between about 30 and 36 centimeters in length. Gus, before we get to the spleens themselves, how did you get started with pig spleen weather forecasting?
Well, it's an old tradition. Great-great-grandpa was doing it, and they came from Sweden, but they weren't the only nationality that were doing it either. The Norwegians were doing it, and we did a lot of butchering at home years ago when I was 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. There was lots of butchering going on then. And anyway, there would be a couple of guys in the group there, my dad and another fellow named Harold. When the insides would come out of these hogs, they would hold up the spleen and say, oh, looks like a cold January coming, and oh, a little bit warmer in February, and snowstorm in March, and decent rain in May and June, and then they would just throw the spleen away.
I'd like to, we're going to start off a toast to the spleen, a toast to Gussie, so everyone would raise their glasses to Gussie Wickstrom. My Uncle Gus was a very good pig spleen prognosticator, and he became quite famous. He passed away, I think it was 2006, and the family wanted somebody to take on to keep the sort of the ritual going. So I was, I guess, sort of the obvious choice. One time we were at a little bit of a competition where my uncle was doing predictions with a whole bunch of other weather forecasters. And that was one of the questions they asked him, was who was going to take it over when he was done. And he sort of looked at me and said, my nephew will. So, and I didn't think much of it at the time, but it came true. So it's looking like a fairly mild winter, especially for the first 3 months or so. We're going to have some good rain again starting in May or April. Of note is foggy patches probably starting in February, March, and I'll put the dates on the website when I figure them out more exactly. But we're going to see some real sort of ups and downs again. I think in February, snow's probably even going to disappear from around here. You won't see any snow, and then it'll come back. But we're not going to have very much. So in general, it's a real mild winter coming up. Probably normal to above normal kind of temperatures that we're looking at, and a little less than normal precipitation. Of interest is always May, June. Doesn't look like we're going to have, the first part of June is going to be wet. The end of June is going to be more dry. The previous years, we've seen lots of rain all the way through June, and this year it's going to be a little bit different, drier towards the end of June. So I think we're seeing a change in the weather from being abnormally cold to starting to getting a little bit warmer.
Now, just looking at the spleens that you have here today, some of them are a little shorter, some a little longer, a little wider, a little fatter. I guess, does that all hinder your forecasting, or?
Well, it all shows me the different thickness in them, and that does show me the different varieties of weather. Really, that's why I prefer these large spleens. See, there's a bulge on this one here now, and that would show me this would be in May, and I believe I have rain down in May, so that part shows me rain in May, and it's quite thick here in June at the bottom, with fatty deposits on it too. I've got quite heavy rains coming in middle or the end of June, and that's how I arrived at that, was these heavy fatty deposits on the back here that you have to look at in order to determine what the weather will be in the months that you're looking at.
So what you do with the spleen is you divide it into 6 parts, and each part represents a month of the year, starting in January all the way through to June. So you look at the fat on the spleen and the thickness and the texture of the spleen to figure out what the weather is going to be like. So it's rooted in sort of some ancient ritual, and we're just sort of following the same kind of procedures that they've done over the years.
Questions from the audience?
How many spleens did you read?
This year I read 5 spleens. One had a lot of fat on it, and it was probably an out-of-province pig. something that they brought in. The other 4 were pretty consistent. They were all about the same with the very small amounts of fat on them. There's not a lot of difference between them.
From Earview.
All from Earview Colony.
Earview.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So that puts us at 200 kilometers radius?
Yes, the radius of accuracy is 200 kilometers. 200 miles, 300 kilometers.
200 miles?
I can change that as required.
Well, we're back for another edition of the Pig Spleen Forecast here on Southwest TV News, and joining us again here today is Gus Wickstrom. And Gus, I guess you become quite an entertainer, I guess, so to speak, here in the Southwest with your forecasting, and a lot of people really enjoy coming out to see you when you do the forecasting here across the Southwest, and you tend to put on a bit of a show for them as well, don't you?
Yes, I do. Not only do I do the forecasting, I bite into it a little bit, and part of the spleen. That's one of my little extras. And then I show people how you can actually put it on your head if you want to do that. Different things you can do with the spleen, and not only by reading the weather with it. There's other properties in it too that work pretty good. Reading it is what I did, because they were more in a hurry years ago. They would read the spleen and then they would just sort of wing it away for the cats or whatever, really. But I save it, and but regardless, in order to soft spots on the spleen usually means warm weather, and firmer spots is cold. So in order to determine that, you can feel it too. But I just gently bite into it. Like that. And and you can tell there's a little difference in it. With that. I don't bite a chunk out of it or anything, but I just bite it tenderly enough so you can tell the spots that are going to be warm and what are going to be cold. Yeah. So really, you can eat these if you'd want to in the frying pan, and they're good.
So I suppose if one of your New Year's resolutions was for a healthier diet, you could throw in spleens into the diet then, eh?
Yes, you can. They work very good in the frying pan. You cut them up into little pieces with bacon and eggs and salt and pepper and onions, and it's very, very tasty. In fact, some of the cafes, I think maybe are going to have, instead of liver and onions, they're maybe thinking about going to spleen and onions.
And maybe they'll name it after you too. Maybe you'll have a special of the day named after yourself.
Yes, Gus is special, kind of something like that.
We found that picture which was in a book, and I had it framed, and the little insignia back of it. That's a picture of the farm in Niobe. So it's a real.
Those are great. This is the actual stuff.
Real keepsake. Yeah, I've got that one back in Vancouver. Already have.
He started it, and it was his sort of shtick that he stuck with for quite some time. It's probably, you think if you look around at different areas, there are other guys that are doing pig spleen predictions that aren't specific to Southwest Saskatchewan. But I think the one, I think he has become he was the most famous, and I think there's a lot of recognition of his work and the area that it comes from. Yeah, I've got a lot of cousins that are interested in doing it, and so I think by having these big parties and trying to make it a bit of a family tradition, it will carry on. I'm pretty confident that it will right now. So
if you want to kind of be more romantic, then you eat some spleen, and it kind of has properties into it, something like an aphrodisiac in a way.
So forget about oysters, just get the pig spleen.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, people have been using it with good results, actually, and it's also good for rheumatism, arthritis, sciatica, neuralgia, skin rashes, eyesight, hearing. Will improve a bit if you eat, say, 3 ounces a day of spleen. And as far as being romantic, though, both partners sort of have to eat it, though, or else one partner may overpower the other one kind of. So I will say that they both should be eating it if they try to eat it.
Just a plain-spoken farmer from Saskatchewan, from over Tompkins way. Gus Wickstrom's got something that you'll wanna know about, folks say. When Gus says there's gonna be snow, I'll be damned if it doesn't do it. How is it that Gus knows, and what is the trick to it? Well, you might think that Gus is just fooling us, but he's more accurate than any meteorologist. He's almost never been wrong about the weather, and he does it just by reading pigs' guts. Well, old Gus is quite a clever man, just by looking at a pig.